G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, I hope this isn't going to be one of those never meet your heroes moments, because between you and I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Volkswagen Touareg. But the thing is, if you read the internet, apparently these are completely crap. But in saying that, the Touareg has become one of our most requested vehicles to feature here on ReDriven. And the thing is, everybody I know that owns one of these, including this one, absolutely loves them. So it's all very confusing. So let's get to the bottom of this. Do we believe the owners and fans and believe that these are a wonderful thing? Or do we believe the interwebs and believe that they're just utter rubbish? Like, actually, what does actually go wrong with them? You know, what do they like to live with on a daily basis? What do they cost to own and operate? Most importantly, but should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Australian variants of the 2011 to 2018 Touareg. But if you're not watching this from Australia, everything that we're going to be going over will relate to Touaregs in your local market. Now, this generation of Touareg, it actually shares its base platform with the Audi Q7 and the Porsche Cayenne. So you could kind of say it's sort of like a cut price version of those cars. Also, like many Volkswagen models, these have seen a couple of updates. There's been a plethora of different variants and trim specs, not to mention the host of optional extras that are available. But here in Australia, the Series 1 Touareg was initially available in primarily 4 variants, featuring the choice of being powered by a singular 6-cylinder petrol engine or a range of 6 and 8-cylinder diesel options, ranging from the base spec 150 TDI through to the ballistic 4.2 TDI R-Line. An 8-speed automatic transmission was standard across the range, and the majority of Touaregs sold here were fitted with Volkswagen's 4Motion all-wheel drive system, meaning that these are basically a front-wheel drive SUV until they lose traction and those rear wheels are called into duty. However, my personal favourite, the 3.0 TDI 4X Motion, was fitted with a permanent 4-wheel drive system. This variant features some pretty respectable off-road ability, being able to direct 100% of the engine's torque to a single wheel if needed, thanks to the electronic diff locks. Plus, the 4X Motion models were also fitted with low-range reduction gears, some underbody protection, and a load of other off-roading equipment. In terms of the upgrades, the Touareg received a minor refresh in 2012, however the biggest update occurred in 2015 with the introduction of the Series 2. This refresh was far from a dramatic change aesthetically, however mechanically there was much to take note of, both for the engine and transmission, plus the interior trim and the levels of tech and safety were also increased. But then to confuse this now simplified lineup, Volkswagen also introduced a whole range of different limited and special edition models. But look, rather than going through every graphic detail of every update and every variant, because honestly it would just take too long, you get really bored, we have gathered all of that information and we put it in our incredibly handy and completely free ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now guys, we generally find that the real experts of cars are those that actually buy and drive them every day. And if you own a Touareg and you've noticed in this video that we've missed something major, let us know in the comments. Okay, so how's the exterior? Well, from a design aspect, personally, I bloody love the way these look. I find that the Audi Q7, like this car's sibling, it just feels a bit too big and bulky, and even the Porsche Cayenne, and this is coming from a Porsche fan, for me, it's just a bit too swoopy in this generation, but the Touareg nails it. It's kind of Euro cool, Euro chic, but just tough enough. Actually, speaking of tough, how good does it look on all terrains? Like, if they had some white writing on it and were a bit chunkier, even cooler again, it's still, you know, classy, but just looks a bit more aggressive. But what do you guys think? Do you like the way it looks? Let us know in the comments. But here's a fun fact. If you're interested in buying a Touareg because you're a fan of German engineering and German manufacturing, these are not German. These are made in Slovakia. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not German. Now guys, if you are in the market for a Touareg or really any used car or SUV, there's a whole bunch of stuff you need to check out before you hand over your cash. Hence why we've made the ultimate used car buyer's guide and also an ultimate 4x4 buyer's guide. The links are in the description down there somewhere. I cannot recommend watching them highly enough because they could save you thousands. Okay, so how's the interior? Well, look, the atmosphere and the feel of the interior is going to vary depending on the year and the trim spec, but in this one, bloody lovely. Like, this car's 10 years old, and honestly, I don't think you'd ever know. Like, there's some obvious, tech things that feel a little bit old, but as far as design-wise goes, this is, this is gorgeous. Even as far as wear and tear goes, like it still feels quite sophisticated in here. Like the leather still feels really nice. It hasn't gone too glossy. This has clearly been looked after. Even all the fake wood trim, which is, technically probably gloss plastic, it hasn't scratched up too badly. The painted finishes, even like, the gear selector, that feels really good. There's a few little scuffs and marks on the leather handles here, but that's to be expected. I'm really surprised, honestly. This is a beautiful place to be. Look, granted, this one has been really well maintained, and it's nice to know that if you do find like a really great example like this after 10 years, it still does feel good. I have seen some of these where, they are getting a little bit rough, but even then, it's never terrible. Now in the back seat, I'm exactly 20.9 bratwurst sausages tall. This is in my driving position. I'll tell you what, it is so comfortable back here. Like heaps of leg room, heaps of foot room. The glass house is large and airy, so it feels really nice. The seats are so comfortable. They can recline, they can also slide back and forward as well. This is a delightful place to be. As far as wear and tear goes, but what wear and tear? Like, again, I don't know if these seats have ever been sat in. They're so comfortable. The leather is in perfect condition. There's no scratches. All this plastic up here feels great. Zero wear and tear. How's the tech? Well, thanks to the Touareg being available in 2 generations across God knows how many variants and a plethora of optional extras, what tech you get is going to vary enormously. But in the absolute base models, what you can expect is an 8-speaker stereo with 6-disc CD player, dual-zone climate control, a multi-function 6.5-inch touchscreen, cruise control, Bluetooth connectivity, front and rear parking sensors, rain-sensing wipers, and remote central locking. While more recent and top-spec examples will feature a fantastic sounding 12-speaker Dyne Audio Confidence stereo, 4-zone climate control, heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, a reversing camera, curb view reversing function, a power-operated tailgate, and keyless entry with remote start. But for all of the specific details of which Touareg gets what levels of tech, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet, or the link should be in the description below there somewhere. So, is it practical? Well, in the boot, yes, it's bloody huge back here, plus there's no load lip, so getting stuff in and out's easy. But one thing, when you fold the seats flat, they're not exactly flat. There's a slight little lip, and the backs of the back seat kind of sit up on a bit of an angle, which is a bit of a pain in the neck, but overall, in the boot, really practical. In practicality, in the second row, you've got awesome sized door bins that are really easy to get to. Perfect size spot here for your phone or multiple phones. You've got air vents, you've got a power outlet up here, you've got some nets back here in case you go fishing and need to put the fish somewhere, and you've got a couple of cup holders in the armrests here. Excellent. In practicality, up front, you've got a little cubby hole up here in the center console or top of the dashboard. You've got another little cubby hole here. You've got an pretty good sized glove box there. You've got a spot specifically for your sausage just there. You've got 2 cup holders here. You've got storage under the seats. Huge door bins. They are absolutely massive. And you've got a bisexual center console because it opens both ways and sometimes at the same time. Love it. Okay, now the bit that I'm personally not looking forward to, what goes wrong with these things? Look, after talking to various Volkswagen technicians and trawling through reliability reports and customer satisfaction surveys and what feels like thousands of forums, unfortunately, there are quite a few things that go wrong. First of all, bloody rust. There are quite a few reports that rust can form around the rear doors. So open the doors and look for any signs of paint bubbling, and especially around any of the door rubbers. Okay, next up is water retention, which is something that even I suffer from, but with the Touareg, there are so many water retention issues, I've got to refer to the script because I can't remember it all. We've done like 10 takes already and I can't remember it. Here we go. The sunroof drains can block. The doors can hold water, but this is easily fixed by just removing the bottom grommet. But if you don't remove that bottom grommet, the doors can hold water and that can lead to all sorts of problems down the track. The air conditioning condensate pipe can block. The bulkhead drains can also block with leaves over time, but to sort that out, it takes about 30 minutes to remove the wheel arches, pull the rubber drain bungs out, and clean the drains out on each side. Oh, also, if that blockage isn't cleared, the water can get in through the pollen filter and onto the passenger bulkhead, which run under the carpet where it can seriously damage the ECU and a whole bunch of electronics. So make sure if you're buying one of these, make sure you check the underside of the carpet to see if it's dry. If it's not dry, get the pollen filter out and see if that is wet as well. If it's all wet, it's all bad. Make sure you check that the auto headlights and the auto wipers also work, because there's been a problem with the sensor at the top of the windscreen. Make sure you check that all of the doors lock and unlock easily, because, you know, electrical gremlins. Also check that the electric mirrors work, because, you know, electrical gremlins. Now inside, the seated heats are known to fail prematurely. It's that the heating pad just gives up. There are also some reports that the infotainment systems can glitch out, sometimes completely wiping any preset stations. It generally just needs a software update, but it's annoying. Now, listen to the air conditioning. If you hear a clicking noise, it might be the servo motor. The problem is, to fix that, it's actually a pretty cheap part, but getting to it requires the entire dashboard coming out, and that will take hours, and the labor charge will be enormous. Now, before we get to the mechanical issues that these things can suffer from, look, the only way that we can keep making these videos is with your support, and the best way to support us is just by clicking those like, subscribe, and bell buttons. Doing that, it helps us out so much. Okay, so what mechanically goes wrong with these things? Well, I'd love to tell you, but I can't, because I'm not a qualified mechanic. But Jim is.
Engine-wise, the vast majority of the ones in Australia are the V6 diesel, so I'm just going to focus on them for now. The biggest problem we see in the workshop is leaking injector seals. The V6 diesels, well, there's obviously 6 injectors. Best case scenario, if you're only doing the one that is leaking, it can cost about $400 to repair that. Worst case scenario, if the injector needs replacing, well, that's about a $1,600 spend, and remember, there are 6 of them. Now, these injectors can be bought from Volkswagen, but any good independent mechanic will know you can get them way cheaper from other suppliers. I should also add that this problem is rarely seen in the V8 diesels. If you do have the V8 diesel, well, there's 8 injectors and that'll cost more. Other common problems in these are the timing chain and complications around there. If anything goes wrong in there, well, there's probably $2,000 or $3,000 to repair that. Of course, they have the usual EGR and DPF complications, although some of the DPF complications are not that expensive. We've seen a few cases where it's just the hose going to the DPF pressure sensor that's burnt out. The rest of the car, well, has a few issues as well. We see a few air conditioning issues. Sometimes it's something quick and easy, and other times it's a really expensive problem with a compressor, or even more expensive, the evaporator, which means the whole dash has got to come out. Sunroof complications, door lock actuators and window regulators are all common problems as well, although not terribly expensive comparatively. And there are plenty of electrical gremlins and software issues as well, and pretty much everyone we see in the workshop has at least one type of fault light or warning light on, whether it's a faulty washer bottle level sensor or a tyre pressure monitoring issue that can't be resolved, or something more sinister like a transmission control module or a CAN bus communication issue. The earlier versions of these are definitely more unreliable than the later versions, and some owners will tell you that they've never had a problem, and they might also say that they've never had a problem because they don't cheap out on servicing. But the reality is we see all of these problems, even on the ones that are well serviced.
Now, we should mention, this is actually the 3rd Touareg that we've booked into film, because the first 2 both suffered from major mechanical issues, so we had to cancel them, or they had to cancel on us, so not ideal. Okay, so is it safe? Well, you know what? Those crazy cats at the Australian Safety Authority, ANCAP, they never got around to testing this particular generation of Touareg, but they did test the previous one and the one after this, and they both got 5 stars, so it's pretty safe to assume that this is a safe vehicle. But to give you an overview of what safety equipment you can expect in a Touareg, here's another voiceover, but this time I'm going to get my German friend Mark to do it.
Standard safety features on the Touareg include multiple airbags, ABS, brake assist, electronic brake force distribution, electronic stability control with rollover sensor, traction control, a heel holder, driver fatigue monitoring after the 2012 updates, and seat belts with pretensioners und load limiters.
However, higher spec and later models also included
adaptive cruise control, front assist, city emergency brake, und proactive occupant protection.
But for all of the details of which Touareg gets what safety equipment, just jump on ReDriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. Okay, so what's it like to drive? It is absolutely bloody lovely. I've been driving this thing for a little while now, and it's just superb. Honestly, it does everything you'd want an SUV like this to do. It feels so confident on the road. The visibility is really good. Like, it is a larger vehicle, but like judging the parameters to like get into a tight car parking spot is an absolute breeze. Plus the steering is light, so it actually makes the car feel smaller than it actually is. But in saying that, there's a decent amount of communication coming through the wheel. It might be the all-terrain tires kind of weighting things up a little bit, but just delightful. Like, even the suspension, like, this is a few years old. It has more than 200,000 Ks on it. It feels great, like it's still comfortable, it absorbs bumps really easily, but at the same time it doesn't pitch and roll all over the place. It doesn't feel like a boat at all. Now this car is fitted with the 180 kilowatt turbo diesel V6 and it pulls easily and cleanly with linear power delivery. But to show you some realistic performance times, here's a 0 to 60 kilometre an hour test and a 60 to 100 kilometre an hour test. Now in terms of sounds and rattles and creaks and things like that, there are some really tiny little rattles here and there, but you can barely hear them. The tyres on this, they are all-terrains and they do get a bit drony, especially on the freeway. So if you are going to fit all-terrains to these, just be aware that you're going to get a bit of a all the time. But in terms of negatives with the driving experience, look, I'll be honest, I'm kind of constantly listening out for some mechanical issue to happen. Like I'm constantly aware that there might be a problem or a drama, and that does really detract from the driving experience. Look, overall, again, I know I've said it a million times, this thing is wonderful to drive. It really is a cut price Audi Q7 or Porsche Cayenne, but I'm just constantly worried that something's gonna break. Pricing here in Australia kicks off at around $10,000 to $12,000 and tops out at around about $100,000. So that's a mere $90,000 difference between the really shit ones and the really good ones. Something like this, a 2012 V6 TDI 4Motion in really, really good condition with, okay, a lot of kilometres on it, around about 20 grand. And for some international pricing, here's a graphic. Volkswagen claims a fuel consumption figure of anywhere from 7.4 to 10.1 litres per 100 Ks, obviously depending on year and spec and engine and that sort of stuff. This one is claimed at 7.4 litres per 100 Ks, but it's actually seeing 12.8. Volkswagen offered a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty on all these Touaregs, which means they're all well and truly out of warranty now, and depending on your financial situation, that could be terrifying. Now, servicing is recommended at every 12 months or 15,000 Ks, but don't feel that you need to go to a Volkswagen dealership or even a European car specialist to get these serviced. Those guys can charge a premium and in some cases will rip you off. There are plenty of great independent mechanics out there and they will be able to look after these. Please do your homework because you could save thousands. Okay, so should you buy one? I so want to say yes because look, when these work, they are just bloody lovely. Yes, I am a fan, I'm kind of biased towards it. They're an awesome, awesome car. But the problem is, now that they're getting older, the chances of things going mechanically wrong and horribly mechanically wrong are just getting a bit too risky. Look, if you're mechanically inclined and just relish in the thought of spending the occasional weekend deep underneath a Touareg fixing any number of the many inevitable problems, yeah, sure, buy one. Look, something like a Pajero or a Prado are most likely going to be far more reliable, but neither of those things offer the levels of plush luxury and Euro cool that this thing does. But if the budget is tight and fixing Volkswagen SUVs is not high on your list of hobbies, then sorry, but no, you shouldn't buy one of these. This is actually the third Touareg that we've booked into film. The first one start again. The other ones both suffered from major mechanical issues. Here we go. Now we should mention that this is actually the third Touareg. Now we should mention that this is actually the third Touareg that we actually Now we should mention that this is actually the third Touareg that we've been. First two both suffered from some pretty. I f***ed it up again. What is wrong with me? Let me have a. Where's my water? It's in the other car. There we go. Now guys, what did you think of the Touareg? Would you buy one? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you are in the market for one of these things, you're probably going to enjoy these videos over here as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.